Every staircase and silo is a promise the show doesn't keep. 3 seasons in, we've watched it insist that height costs something. That a trip from level 19 down to mechanical is heavy enough to plan an overnight bag around, and that crossing 100 floors should leave a person wrecked. Then, in those same seasons, it hands out that exact same distance for free whenever the plot needs someone somewhere fast. Once you notice that gap, it shows up almost everywhere the show touches. The generator, the cameras hidden in mirrors, the radios, even the tape sealing a cleaning suit. Start with the stairs because the rest of the silo is built on top of that one hallway standing on end. 144 levels, no elevator. Every person, every meal, every spare part for the pumps moves on the same set of legs climbing the same set of steps. Season 1 understood the weight of that. Allison packs for an overnight stay just to visit George a few dozen levels down, and the show treats that trip like a real expedition because inside this building, it is one. Then Juliette needs to move, and the math the show built in season 1 stops applying without a word of explanation. She crosses huge stretches of the silo, sometimes covering that kind of distance more than once in a single day, and nobody in the story treats it as strange. Set that against how suspicious the identical behavior looks the moment Glenda does it. Billings and Hank pull footage placing her near the mines and somewhere else entirely, inside a time frame that shouldn't allow for the trip, and the whole scene only works because everyone in the silo has internalized that distance is expensive. It has to be expensive, or there's no mystery. Juliet gets a pass, nobody in the story ever explains. Glenda gets treated like she broke a law of physics that apparently only applies to her. That's the travel problem in miniature. And it matters because it's the one inconsistency the show can't easily hide. Almost everything else it can tuck behind advanced hidden technology or a vague sense that the silo's engineers know more than we do. Distance can't hide like that. We're told exactly how it works. We watch characters plan whole days around it, and then we watch the plot ignore its own rule the moment a character needs to be somewhere for a scene. Power carries the same shape of problem, just with higher stakes attached. During the season 1 repair, Mechanical opens the generator, pulls the damaged turbine parts, reshapes the blades with hand tools, and gets the whole machine spinning again by eye. That's the entire electrical supply for 10,000 people, running on a repair job that would terrify a real facility with a spare parts warehouse and a manufacturer on call. Silo 18 has neither, and that single generator carries the entire load. Farms, pumps, lighting, every camera and radio hidden in the walls. All of it depends on one machine that gets fixed with hammers and good eyesight. Season 3 then reveals a second power line running in from Silo 1, one that can keep the lights on even when the local generator fails. So somebody, at some point, made a real engineering decision to build this place a backup after all. They just gave it to the wrong part of the building. The politically important section and the farms both get protected. Mechanical, the pumps, and everybody else keep living under one point of failure that a hidden line sitting a few walls away could have solved from the beginning. Keeping that line secret from Mechanical specifically is its own separate problem, because these are the people who've spent their whole lives maintaining every piece of heavy equipment in the building. A cable strong enough to power a section of the silo runs through their world for generations without becoming common knowledge among the exact people whose job is knowing where the wiring goes. The hidden camera network has the same maintenance problem, stretched across a much longer timeline. Season 1 shows cameras built into mirrors and hidden inside private homes, and the network has apparently stayed secret for generations. Think about what that actually requires. Mirrors crack, and somebody has to be the one who fixes them without being seen doing it. Walls get open for ordinary repairs, leaks damage cables that were never supposed to exist in the first place. Families renovate, move furniture, replace fixtures, all across a population of 10,000 people living their whole lives inside a sealed structure. That should be constant opportunity for someone to stumble onto a lens that isn't supposed to be there. Keeping the system alive also means somebody has to keep replacing its parts, keep it powered, and keep training new technicians who know exactly where all of it is hidden. Every person brought into that circle is another person who understands something the rest of the silo is forbidden to know, and that number only grows the longer the secret has to survive. The radio network runs into the same wall from a different direction. Silo 1 is apparently able to monitor the other silos, which means somebody built and has maintained a communication system running through solid rock, concrete, and steel for long enough that nobody down below has ever traced it back. Radios need shielding, repeaters, and technicians who understand the physical layout of a building most residents aren't allowed to think about. Keeping a secret like that takes more than a locked door. It takes an entire second workforce nobody in the silo ever talks about. Critical Supply turns all of this from an inconsistency into a countdown. Carla remembers roughly 70 years worth of grow light bulbs sitting in storage, and now only about 2 years of that stock is left. That gap is decades of material vanishing from a restricted section inside a building where every hallway is watched. Whoever moved it had to carry it physically through the same stairs everyone else uses, past the same checkpoints, in a silo with no cargo elevator and no freight system we've ever been shown. Moving that much material without anyone noticing is its own logistical puzzle sitting on top of the mystery of where it actually went. And this is the part of the show that's built to have an expiration date baked in from the start. The farms depend on components silo. 18 can't manufacture for itself. Once the stockpile runs out, food production doesn't slow down gradually. It stops. Every piece of hidden technology this society runs on was always temporary, whether that reading was intentional on the writer's part or not. The cleaning ritual runs on a similar kind of luck, except this one is psychological instead of mechanical. The whole system depends on convincing people that a death outside the silo means something. And it works by sending one person out to wipe a single camera lens with a rag while wearing a suit sealed together with ordinary tape. Juliette survives because her suit happens to be sealed properly. The standard tape is supposed to hold just long enough for a cleaner to reach the camera and then fail soon after, which is an odd kind of engineering to build a belief system on. Different bodies, different suit fits, sweat, and movement should all affect how a seal performs. Yet the weak tape keeps failing at roughly the same point almost every time, right when the ritual needs it to. The cafeteria screen adds a separate mystery on top of that one. When the generator fails in Season 1, the public screen suddenly shows the same fall screen landscape used inside the cleaning helmets, even though nothing before or after that scene ties those two systems together. It plays like a clue the moment it happens. No later reveal has ever explained why it was there. The show's most physically demanding problem, though, is the human body, and Juliette carries most of it personally. She barely knows how to swim, and within a short stretch of story, she's carrying out a deep, technical dive using homemade equipment she and Solo built out of scraps. Swimming gets a person the beginning of that skill set at best. Controlled descent, pressure management, breathing gear rigged from whatever's lying around a flooded silo, that's a separate and far less forgiving problem, and a single mistake down there can hurt her even while the equipment itself keeps working. She develops decompression sickness afterward, which is actually the one moment the show gets the physiology right. Then Solo sends her back underwater to recompress her, using the same improvised gear with almost no training between the two of them. Recompression is a real medical treatment. Doing it with leaking, homemade oxygen equipment, and zero medical support is the kind of call that should end badly far more often than it does here. Stack that dive on top of everything else her body goes through around the same stretch of the season. She nearly drowns more than once, fights off a serious infection, takes an arrow, keeps climbing, keeps fighting, and still finds the strength to repair heavy machinery before making it back outside. Any single one of those is survivable on its own. It's the total absence of recovery time between all of them that starts to strain belief. Knox and Shirley get a smaller version of the same physics problem on the winch. They fall a real distance before the line catches them, and even with a rope that holds, a human body still has to absorb that stop. A fast fall followed by a hard catch should hit them brutally. They walk away from it looking far more comfortable than the speed of that fall should allow. Season 3 added a plot device that might be doing more structural damage than anything else on this list, and it's one the show built entirely for itself. We learn that a man named Salvador Quinn used a drug slipped into the water supply to slowly erase dangerous memories from the population over the course of years. And the current plan uses a compound called vitamin D plus to do something similar, faster, across all of Silo 18. Most casual viewers don't realize that in Hugh Howey's original novels, none of this exists. Juliette returns to her silo with her memory completely intact. The amnesia storyline was written for the screen, which means every plausibility problem attached to it belongs to the writers, not the source books. And there are real ones. A drug that suppresses specific, politically dangerous memories while leaving language, motor skills, job training, and enough personal history intact for someone to keep functioning has to be an almost impossibly selective compound. Put that same drug in a shared water supply, and basic pharmacology gets in the way. People don't drink identical amounts. A child and a large adult metabolize differently. Someone doing hard physical work and mechanical is going to drink far more water in a day than someone sitting behind a desk near the top of the silo, and dehydration, illness, and body mass all change how a substance actually hits the bloodstream. Real memory-altering compounds also have to cross the blood-brain barrier to do anything meaningful at all, and anything strong enough to manage that reliably tends to bring cardiovascular side effects that are hard to hide across 10,000 different bodies. A population that size, drinking from the same pipes, should produce a wide range of outcomes, not a clean uniform reset. The show treats it as a switch. Real pharmacology doesn't work that way, and the writers seem to know it. Several interviews around this season describe the mass dosing plan as something the story treats as a last resort specifically because of how much strain it puts on the premise, which suggests the strain wasn't lost on the people writing it either. Even the showrunner has said in interviews around this season that some of what governs the other silos is a genuine open question inside the writer's room itself. Graham Yost has talked about the safeguard, the program capable of killing an entire silo through poison in a matter of minutes, and admitted he doesn't fully know why it exists or how the people who built it decided a single choke point was an acceptable risk. Which is honestly one of the more interesting things about where the show sits right now. Some of what looks like a plot hole to us is an open question to the people writing it too. That timing is worth sitting with because Apple has confirmed Season 4 as Silo's final season, filmed back-to-back with this one and set to arrive in the summer of 2027, adapting the closing chapters of Howey's trilogy. The show has exactly one season left to pay off everything sitting in this pile. The safeguard's real mechanism, where critical supplies missing stock actually went. Why Silo 1 gets a backup power line and nobody else does. Whether vitamin D plus survives contact with its own internal logic once the story slows down enough to look at it directly. Season 3 has been pulling in near-perfect scores from critics while sitting in the high 50s with audiences, and that kind of gap usually means something. Critics tend to grade a show on ambition and craft. Audiences tend to notice when the math stops adding up. A closing season is where a show either closes that distance or proves it never actually had an answer for the questions it kept raising. A story has to establish real rules before anyone can notice it breaking them, and Silo did the hard part first. It made distance, power, secrecy, and the human body all feel like they carried weight. That's exactly why the shortcuts stand out as much as they do. The stairs taught us how expensive height is supposed to be. Once that lesson is on the record, it should apply to everyone climbing them, not just the characters the plot needs to move quickly.